Adobe is natively integrating generative AI into Creative Cloud apps with Firefly. Firefly and Photoshop combine state-of-the-art quality with the precise creative control that professionals demand. In development now, the new Generative Match lets you sample from your existing images. For example, change a style from photorealistic to painterly or neon. Or, with an object match, transform an object like changing a jacket from leather to your favorite denim. And simply sketch to add objects with the exact orientation and pose you want. The power of generative fill is also coming to Premiere Pro, allowing video creators to insert entirely new elements into their clips. Simply draw a selection around the area you want to change and enter a text prompt. Bring your message to the world through automatic translation. Select different languages. And let Premiere synthesize new text, voice, and even mouth movements.
In our company, we celebrate diversity every day. En nuestra empresa celebramos la diversidad todos los días.
Adobe Firefly in Creative Cloud, giving professionals the power and control they demand.
You can't stop this, I don't go slow. I might knock knock, say yo yo. Ain't no getting around and no figuring out. You gon' get lost on this showboat, it's on. Keep it moving, just keep it moving. Keep it moving, keep it moving. I keep it moving.
Hello and welcome to this Factor webinar where we'll explore the theme building trust and transparency in generative AI. I'm Madeline Palmer, the Editor-in-Chief at Factor, and I'm your host for today. In this webinar series sponsored by Adobe, we'll delve into the challenges posed by artificial intelligence, misinformation, deepfakes, and the ethical dilemmas that come with rapid technological advancements. As AI technology becomes increasingly integrated into various aspects of our society, ensuring that consumers and organisations can trust the content and systems powered by AI is paramount. Anyone tuning in is encouraged to pop any questions in the comments section, and the Adobe team will endeavour to respond to you during or after the session. So I'm joined by Desmond Ang, the Head of Strategic Development at Adobe, to discuss more on this topic. Desmond, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Desmond, look, with the rise of generative AI, public perception has been a significant topic in this discussion. How do you see the current sentiment about generative AI among the general public in the ANZ region, and what are the main concerns that you have?
Yeah, well, Adobe recently conducted a global study actually on the impact of generative AI, and that included 1,000 people from Australia and New Zealand. And what we found is that most people, and most of the respondents in Australia and New Zealand are quite optimistic about generative AI. I think 2/3 of those respondents actually think that Gen AI will allow them to find information more easily. Just under half of respondents actually believe that generative AI will make them more productive and allow them to achieve more. But there are definitely some concerns about generative AI as well. Most people are concerned that generative AI will actually be used to create inaccurate information or misleading content, which really adds to the concern that they have about the spread of misinformation. And 40% of people actually said that they've seen misinformation shared by people that they know in the past 6 months. And we found this has led to 1/3 of people actually limiting their use of social media to try and avoid it. And people in particular are concerned about generative AI being used to manipulate images and video.
And we've definitely seen that happen as well. But did the study reveal anything about how this misinformation is impacting people's behaviour, especially when it comes to online content?
So the good news is that 91% of respondents actually consider the credibility of an online source before trusting it or sharing it. But a majority of people also say that it's becoming increasingly difficult to verify the authenticity of content. And so they really want tools and solutions that help can help them determine whether a piece of content is authentic or trustworthy.
Yeah, for sure. And look, Adobe's Content Authenticity Initiative is a significant step towards content credibility. Maybe if you can elaborate on how this initiative works and how its impact is mitigating the risks associated with Gen AI.
Yeah. Well, we co-founded the Content Authenticity Initiative, or CAI, in 2019 with New York Times and Twitter, really in response to the increasing prevalence of misinformation. The CAI now actually has over 3,000 members, including many recognizable technology and publisher brands. And they're all committed to developing and implementing solutions for making the origin or provenance of content transparent, and really advocating for the adoption of these solutions by industry and government. One of these solutions is called content credentials, and you can think of it like a nutrition label for digital content, which tells you how a piece of digital content has been created. And the idea is that if people question a piece of content, they can actually inspect the content credentials to identify whether that piece of content is trustworthy or authentic.
Yeah, fantastic. How do you see the role of content authentication tools evolving as AI technology continues to advance as well?
Well, because content credentials is actually secure metadata that travels with the content as it's being developed, the goal of the CAI is actually to drive the adoption of content credentials throughout the content supply chain, which is why CAI members include chip manufacturers like NVIDIA, camera manufacturers like Leica, software companies like Adobe, content publishers like BBC, and social media platforms like TikTok. And what this means is that a content credential can start to form when a photo is taken on a Leica camera, when that photo is edited in Adobe Photoshop, so that when that photo is published on BBC News, a reader can inspect the content credential to verify the authenticity of that photo in the first place. And because this solution really gets better the more it's adopted, the CAI and Adobe are talking to governments around the world to get their support to encourage broad industry adoption.
Fantastic. And look, trust and compliance are also crucial for any technology's widespread adoption. So what strategies is Adobe implementing to build trust and also ensure compliance, especially with ethical standards with its AI-driven products as well?
Yeah. Well, we've been using AI in our products for over a decade, which meant that we already had an AI ethics program to guide the development of our first generative AI solution, which was called Adobe Firefly, and that allows you to easily create images using a text prompt. Our AI ethics program actually consists of a governance committee composed of a diverse group of people to minimise bias in our approach, a diverse review board which performs impact assessments of high-impact AI features that we develop, and AI ethics principles of responsibility, accountability, and transparency. Now, when it comes to responsibility in the context of developing our generative AI solution, this means ensuring that Firefly is only trained on data that we have the rights to use. For instance, our training data doesn't include any trademark characters like Spider-Man, which means that by design, Firefly can't actually generate any images which include them. Instead, Firefly has been trained on our carefully curated collection of 450 million images, which come from content contributors who we have commercial arrangements with. And this means that we can offer our customers a commercially safe generative AI solution. In contrast, other Gen AI solutions gather training data from the internet, and that has led to lawsuits by content creators who believe that their intellectual property rights have been infringed. And when it comes to the principle of accountability, a significant way that we deliver on this promise is actually by offering to indemnify our customers if there's legal issues with the images we generate. And we can only offer that indemnification because we know that the training data doesn't infringe on anyone's IP rights. And our last but not least AI ethics principle is transparency, which is particularly critical when it comes to generative AI, given how easy it is to create realistic looking images at scale. And of course, our solution for transparency is to add content credentials to any image generated by Firefly so that they can include a declaration that this image has been created by Adobe's generative AI.
Really, really great point you make there as well. And I want to know from your vantage point at Adobe, what are some of the most exciting and impactful use cases of generative AI that you've seen maybe in the ANZ region?
So a key challenge that we see Gen AI solving for organisations is the increasing need for them to produce more and more content, while not necessarily seeing a matching increase in the resources required to produce that volume of content. For instance, marketing organisations need to produce content for a multitude of physical and digital channels. They need to localise it for different markets, and they need to meet the expectations of today's consumer by delivering personalised experiences. As a result, it's anticipated that marketing organisations will actually need to produce 5 times as much content as today in a couple of years' time, while also being asked to reduce costs and maintain quality. So we see generative AI as really supercharging the ability of creative resources to deliver on this content demands, but also empowering marketers and other functions to participate in the creative and content development process themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Now, given your diverse experience, what do you see as the future of creative collaboration and content creation, especially with the integration of AI technologies?
So I think at a macro level, we kind of see 2 complementary opportunities for Gen AI. Firstly, Gen AI will raise the ceiling for specialist resources like creatives by unlocking new creative possibilities. But it will also lower the floor for those that don't have specialist skill and allow them to contribute to the content development process. For instance, Gen AI will mean that marketing teams don't always have to leverage limited creative resources and can instead take care of their own content needs. And on the flip side, highly skilled creatives can focus more time on the high-value work. So Gen AI will ultimately help organisations alleviate their content bottlenecks and ensure they've got the time and resources to produce original and distinctive content that differentiates themselves in the marketplace.
And look, it's a very cool place to be in. And how do you think organisations need to adjust over the next few years, especially to take advantage of the opportunities that Gen AI presents to them?
Yeah, well, we recently co-authored a paper with the Boston Consulting Group on how Gen AI is shaping the future of creativity in marketing. And this paper actually outlined the broader transformation that organisations need to go through to take advantage of all the benefits that Gen AI has to offer. And the paper actually suggests that there's 3 phases in a Gen AI-driven transformation. That is, deploy, reshape, and invent. Now, the deploy phase is where organisations look for ways for Gen AI to increase the productivity and efficiency of their people, and this is where most organisations are today. And then the reshape phase is where organisations look to re-engineer their processes and workflows to transform how their teams operate. And then lastly, the invent phase is where organisations really start to reimagine business models or create new sources of competitive advantage using the power of Gen AI.
Look, in what ways is Adobe looking to help organisations get more value out of generative AI in the near future as well?
Well, to date, we've released generative AI solutions that allow you to easily create images, easily create vectors and design templates, and we'll soon be releasing generative AI solutions that allow you to easily create video, audio, and 3D assets. The other opportunity we've started to provide organisations is Firefly custom models, which gives organisations the ability to customise our generative AI models by training it with their own brand and style, so that anything that Firefly generates reflects that distinctive style and brand. And we're now focused on bringing automation capabilities to market in a solution called Firefly Services. And that's really going to allow organisations to scale up their content development by allowing them to embed those our Gen AI capabilities in their own processes, workflows, and applications.
Great. I can't wait to hear more about it, but thank you, Desmond, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And that's it for this first webinar in our series brought to you by Factor and our partner Adobe. For those attendees who still have unanswered questions, Adobe will definitely be in touch. Thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us today as we explored building trust and transparency in generative AI. We look forward to seeing you at our next Factor event. Bye for now.